I'll text him.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's Jim. That's our Jim.
it is. It's the same guy.
So Mark,
Mark, I
I want
would
to make
say don't wait for him. Go ahead and go.
Did everyone get Rev 2, revision 2 of the board packet?
I
Yes.
saw it. I didn't get a chance to print it out. I just walked into the office 5 minutes before start time. I've got the old one. So I've tried to pull up the other one in another window. So if I miss something, if I wind up not going to the next agenda item in order, if you guys could help keep me honest, that would be good.
It's later
Okay.
on in new business, the changes. And then the changes for the manager's report. Great
Okay.
picture.
All right, well, I guess we should probably go ahead and get started. So I'll call the meeting to order. I show that it's 1:42. And so I see Carissa is here, Mandy's here, I'm here. We're hopeful that Derek will attend. Tony has let us know in advance that he's ill and he will not be attending. So I make a motion that I can never remember what the right terminology is.
I move that. I move that. I
Yeah,
move that.
yeah, I move that Tony's absence, but what are we doing with his absence? We're just approving his absence, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so I make a movement that we approve his absence. Second,
Second.
okay. So everyone's in
approve.
favor of that? Okay. All right. So I'm not aware that we have any guest speakers today.
Well, we have to approve the agenda.
Oh, okay, well, this one says recognize guest speakers.
Oh,
So
okay.
number 2. Approval of the agenda is number 3.
Oh, okay.
So I move that we approve Rev 2 of the agenda that was sent out a little while ago.
Second.
And
Okay,
what's uploaded up on it's on our website as well, so.
okay, Mandy, I heard you say you agree. Okay, so obviously I do too. So the agenda is approved. Does anybody have any issues with the previous minutes?
I move that we approve the previous minutes.
Okay, Carissa moved that we approve them. I will second that. Mandy, do you agree?
Agree.
Okay, so the previous minutes have been approved. Under special business, the only thing relative to the budget activity this time around will be what Keith reports in the manager's report relative to status against tracking against the budget. There has been no other activity on the budget. Recreation Committee, Mandy, do you have any updates on that?
I don't.
Okay. And on the Personnel Committee, the last I was aware, and Keith, you can provide any updates if you're aware of them. I know that they had received 10 or 11 candidates that had applied for the manager's position. We're waiting for the headhunter to do the initial screen on that and then get back with us. Have you heard anything beyond that?
Get a new manager.
So that's one thing I meant to update in the manager's report as well, because instead of 11, they actually got 16 resumes.
Wow, okay.
Which is good. And 5 of them, Gloria feels that are really good candidates, with 3 of the 5 being strong candidates.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, but the rest of it is, yeah, they're going to pre-screen them this week. And then we will have a candidate review meeting next week between you, Mark, and then whoever else we choose to have on the personnel, you all choose to have on the personnel committee. Semi-finalist interviews will start the week of 2/14, and the finalist interviews will be the week of 2/21. So, yeah, it's not too far off.
Okay, well, so Keith touched on the fact that it has been Tony and I up to this point that have been doing the interviews and sitting down and interfacing with the headhunter and Keith and everybody. With Tony ill, I don't know that we can count on him. If he very quickly gets better, then that's awesome. But I guess what I'd like to do is have in my hip pocket somebody as a backup if Tony's still unable to help us with the interviews. I know, Mandy, you work during the day, and I suspect it may be difficult for you. Carissa, would you possibly have time to assist?
Not in February. I do
Not in
not, February and March. Yeah, I'll be gone.
Okay,
Mark, I can help. It just depends on timing.
okay,
I'm
so,
not available at all points of the day, so it just depends.
all right, so when we get close to the place where we need to sit down and start doing some interviews, I will contact you, Mandy. We'll look for times that might work for you. And again, this is kind of a backup plan anyway. I'm hopeful that maybe Tony will start getting well and maybe he can help with these, but in the situation where he can't, then I will give you a call.
Perfect.
Thanks for volunteering.
Mark, if I could,
Thanks,
real
man.
quick. So Gloria wants to have the candidate review meeting with Forest Lakes next Monday or Tuesday.
Okay,
If Tony isn't available, so if Mandy's going to be the interim, Mandy, we can kind of schedule that around your availability. I don't know how long the candidate review meeting will take with them, probably a couple hours, I would think. So Monday or Tuesday, whatever works for you.
We're looking at next week, right?
Correct.
yeah.
Just do a quick check.
And that's where I can reach
Um,
her this afternoon to let her know what time and date will work, so.
I'm pretty good both of those days in the morning until about noon or 1.
Okay.
And I can't start before about 8:15. Do you want me to come to the meeting, or are we doing this over Zoom?
Yeah, I suspect it's going to be over Zoom.
Okay.
So probably in between 9 and noon. Okay.
And if
all
it's
right.
on Zoom and I'm at home, you could do 9 and 1, actually.
Okay. All right, perfect. I'll let Gloria know.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from you, Keith. Thank you.
Sounds
Okay. So I don't have anything else personnel committee wise. Obviously, you all saw the email here a few days ago that Barb is going to be leaving to go back and work for her husband's business. So we are going to have to post that position. Keith, what's the status of posting that position?
Yeah, so we've got Barb's position posted already.
Okay,
And so, because the idea is that we will get some overlap between Barb and whoever her replacement is.
Oh,
And
there's a little piggy crossing the road.
so I'm not sure who's speaking, but we can hear you. The last time I checked, we had five resumes that were submitted for Barb's position. And I know Jamie looked at 3 of those, I looked at 3 of those, and they weren't the type of skill set that we were looking for that. So the other 2 I'm gonna have to take a look at, and the good thing is they're coming in. I think what we're requiring of that position is we can definitely find a lot of interest with it, especially the customer service side of that. But on the utility billing side and the experience that we want folks to have with QuickBooks and that kind of stuff, that may be where we kind of have a little rub there, but I feel pretty confident we'll be able to get that position filled before Barb decides to pull the parachute cord.
Okay, so she's told us that she's willing to hang in there for a little while to try to have some overlap.
Yeah, she said she's willing to stay until November of this year. No,
Wow.
not really.
Okay,
No, sorry. March, April timeframe is when Barb wants to kind of bail and go work with her husband. So
okay. So we've got a little bit of time, and like you say, we're getting resumes in, so hopefully we don't have too much trouble backfilling that. We can find somebody that will be a good complement to what Jamie does there.
yeah, it's going to be huge because the customer service side, with us being in, it kind of compounds this because we're going to be in the subdivision on having someone that's got at least equal customer service skills that Barb has. I know
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to find, but we'll find them.
Okay. I'm not aware of any other personnel issues right now that we need to discuss. If anybody else is, speak up.
He's got
Okay.
others in the report.
Pardon, Carissa?
He's got others in his report.
Right, okay. Okay, so do we have anybody that is wanting to make any public comments? Okay, I take that as a no. So, okay, I guess,
Nothing in chat.
pardon?
There's nothing in chat either.
Right, okay. So, I guess it's time for the manager's report, Keith.
Okay. All right. So I don't want to read through all of this just because it will just kind of make the meeting really long. But the first part has to do with the, now at the beginning of every year, I go ahead and I like to review what the district has accomplished in the previous year. And the mission statement that we have, that we developed when I came on, is continuing to make a positive difference and to propel the district to a better place than how we found it, has been paramount in the way that we kind of look at things in the district. And so the laundry list of what the district team completed is astounding. It's incredible, just like 2020 was, but you can see it goes down. It's almost 2 pages long, and that's not all inclusive. So my hat's off to the staff. And then as the new district manager comes in, I'm sure that person will kind of expect the same dedication to getting things done, because we've accomplished much, but we can't rest on our laurels because there's still quite a bit left to do. And number 2 has to do with the major priorities for 2022. Again, that's a page long, but that kind of touches on, again, that we have things that we want to continue doing to improve the district. So what I'm going to do is take this information, and before I leave, I'm going to update our strategic plan. So that will be completed for the next person that comes in, and then they can then take that based on what they have learned that needs to be done, and they can just expand the strategic plan. So the vacancies, we kind of touched on everything there, and I just want to let the residents know. I think that the staff definitely knows that my last day with the district, it was going to be 2/28. I decided that it's going to be March 1st because we got to move the district. We got to move our stuff over to our building, and the Packers are going to be here March 1st. So I'm going to be available here so we can make all of that happen. And then after that, I'm gone for 2 weeks because we're heading to the East Coast. But so I'll make myself available to the next person that comes in after about February 14th in order to answer questions that aren't addressed in my continuity report that I'm leaving for my replacement.
March 14th.
Yes. Oh, yes. You're exactly right. Thank you for that, Carissa. Yes,
Okay.
March 14th. My manager's report says February 14th, but it's March 14th.
Okay.
Yep, thanks. So the other position, the other two positions we have out there is, one is our comptroller. That ad got posted on Indeed January 31st. And we actually had one person that has what looks to be a really good accounting background that did apply for it. And then when I updated the ad, I put in specific questions, screening questions that I wanted everyone to answer. So she's in the process of answering that. She lives on the East Coast right now, but is from the Colorado area. So she's trying to get back here.
Nice.
So once we get into that process, Carissa, you may be a good person that can help with that, at least as far as looking at resumes and lining that up against what our position description is, knowing your background. So
Thank you.
we'll kind of draw upon you.
Drive if you, although.
And the equipment operator,
Supposed to do
so
something.
that's being advertised. We've got
I don't-
probably applications that we have received to
I
date.
just-
I've got a
look at
couple
the-
emails out to a couple of them where we're trying to set up interviews. Again, something I'd like to try to get nailed down before my tenure ends, but we'll just kind of play that by ear, but I'll keep everyone posted on it. The next item has to do with our district attorney. So Jeff and I spoke on January 5th about him having 4 or 5 law firms that he would recommend that we screen in order to find out if we feel like they also would fit our requirements. So he hasn't gotten back to me yet because he was going to call them and do preliminary screening with them before he sent the recommendation of names to me. But I'll follow up with him this week in order to make sure we get that nailed down in the next week or so. The wastewater treatment plant discharge permit, again, no updated status on that, which is probably a good thing, I think.
So Keith, before you move on from the wastewater discharge permit, I was talking with Mark Fusen a couple of weeks ago, and in some of his dialogues with the people at state, what he indicated to me, and I don't know if you've heard this or maybe you can confirm it, he was telling me that the reason the state hasn't done anything with ours is they're going through the state kind of watershed by watershed and trying to deal with everything in a given watershed. And ours has not arisen as a priority for them. So eventually they'll get to us. But have you heard anything relative to that, or have you discussed that specifically with Mark? Do we have any idea when they might get to our area?
Yeah, no, yeah, that is exactly what I heard as well, Mark. I am not sure when they're going to get to this area. The only thing that I am sure of is that we have been approved to keep operating under our previous, I think it was like 2017 permit that was active before they had to go out and start renew that. So that's all I know at this point, but eventually they're going to get here.
Okay.
Get to this area.
All right.
Yeah. And I just saw something pop up from Bonnie. And maybe we can handle that after. Yeah, Bonnie has a couple questions, but I'll continue here, and then maybe after the manager's report, if the board wants to handle her questions at that point. But so the election. So we've got two of our board of directors positions to be filled, and that's Tony's and Mandy's. The term is going to be 3 years. So again, the self-nomination forms are going to be accepted until February 25th, which is the statutory deadline. And to date, and speaking to Jamie, we've got four self-nominee applications. There's no Tabor issues, And from what I understand, we're pretty much going to handle the election here versus depending upon the county again. The term is 3 years, and yeah, we'll just kind of see all that kind of pans out. So.
Okay, Keith, in past years, when we've done the election, we've benefited from people like Carissa setting up a forum for the community to get to know the candidates. Are we considering anything like that again for this election?
Yeah, I almost think we're going to need to do that. We'll just have to think of, figure out who and how that's going to happen.
Okay.
As a board member, can I run it?
That's a good question, Carissa. Jamie, do you have any input on that? Do you think there'd be a conflict? I don't feel like there would be a conflict on that, but.
That's something I'll have to research and find out for sure.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Let us know when you have found out.
I will.
Yeah, but then the time frame of that is going to be, I suspect we'd want to do that in March time frame. So, but we've got four self-nom applications. So more to follow on that.
Okay.
So number 7 has to do with the transfer from Colorado Trust to our operational account. So back on January 12th, I communicated that big long paragraph there to Mark on the need to transfer initially $75,000 from Colorado Trust to the operational account, and that was to cover all of the items that were either previously approved by the board to be covered through the operational account, or there were a couple items that I believe it was maybe 1 or 2 items that came up during the course of the year, where the board approved additional funding going towards a project. For instance, during the capital improvements plan, we started talking about doing additional I&I work, inflow and inspection work of our sewer systems. And at that point, the board approved an additional $20,000. In addition to the 20, we had already had budgeted for that project in order to do additional work there. So that was covered. And then we had another transfer that I communicated with Mark that just like we did earlier this year, because our property taxes and so forth had not hit our account yet. So we start operating in January and February where we don't have a whole lot of capital or a whole lot of revenue that is in our budget. So we made that transfer as well, notified Mark to let him know. And then so what we're gonna do as soon as we start getting the inflow of utility billing and then also property taxes, we're gonna reimburse the Colorado Trust account. And I will then go ahead and update my spreadsheet, send that back out to Mark, and I'll send it to the board members as well. Or my replacement will have to do that, but I will make sure that information gets communicated back to the board when the funds get back into the operational account.
Hey, Keith, could you do me a favor, since Carissa backs me up on the budget committee? Could you make sure she's copied on anything relating to that budget also?
Yeah, so I can do that, Mark. And I know originally it was because you were the treasurer.
Right.
That, yeah, we wanted to make sure the treasurer was brought up to speed with that. But yeah, I definitely.
Okay.
I can definitely make sure the 2 budget committee members get this.
Yeah, I would prefer that because she has a lot more background in a lot of this accounting and stuff than I do. And yeah, I'm aware of it, but I'd like to have somebody besides myself that's aware of it also.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so next item has to do with Unit 3. And I've got a lot of information here that I did brief the board. I've already sent the information to the board on. Let me just go ahead and highlight some of this. So Neil Starkbaum, Tony, Mark, and I, after the new year, we actually had a meeting again to discuss Unit 3. So some of the highlights that came from that meeting is that Neil reiterated to us that he has not issued, his department has not issued any building permits to Unit 3 residents, period. So we had heard some rumors from some of the folks up there that the county was going to issue them a building permit. Neil stated unequivocally that they have not issued any building permits. Second item, Neil and his staff visited Unit 3 this past fall and identified several code compliance issues up in Unit 3, be it with campers. The main thing was probably campers, where his code compliance department have already started coordinating these issues with those folks that are out of compliance with the county's land use plan. So yeah, folks should just be aware of that. So we initially wanted to go in to amend the service plan to no longer provide infrastructure upgrades to Unit 3. And we know now that the Board of County Commissioners is not going to support that because they feel that Unit 3 is still the district's responsibility. And with the conversation that we had with Neil, you know, even before we had that conversation with him, we concluded the same thing. That is not the right path forward on this. So it may turn out that we may have to do an amendment to Unit 3 in the future to exclude sewer up there, but that the district is still on the hook to provide road maintenance or road upgrades and then also water. So, and we think that if we take that approach, that the Board of County Commissioners is going to be more positive in looking at an amendment to our service plan. But then the other thing that pops up to that is, so if the district feels is going to take that responsibility for water and then also road upgrades, then it's a funding issue, bottom line. So Neil is going to get back to me. He was going to talk to Matt. There's a gentleman, Matt Salka, and then also Mike Seagrass at the county, because they recommended sort of, when we had the meeting with the Board of County Commissioners that I was viewing, they recommended that we try to seek some of that infrastructure funding. I think it's going to be, I'm not sure how we could compete in that, but I asked Neil if there's any way that we could kind of join forces and try to put us in a better light in order to get that funding. So Neil said that he would get back to us. And I haven't heard from him yet, but he said that he would get back to us on how we can possibly compete with that.
Hey, Keith, I have some concern when I hear they'll get back with us. As much trouble as we've had over the past couple of years trying to get communications coming back from them. Do you have a perspective on how long you think it will take or when we should start tickling them?
Yeah, yeah, because I'm pretty sure, Mark, that he should have had the answer by now. So what I can do is after this meeting, I'll go ahead and send him a quick note, just following up with that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate the prodding on that. And so the next item has to do with so the major lot owners up in Unit 3, of course, are Candace Mann, Jeremy Lumen, and Oxford Development Group. So there's a potential that we can that the county may approved consolidating 35 lots into a single contiguous lot, which would then allow these owners to go ahead and get their well permits. But there's still a lot of details that kind of need to be worked out with that. So the county has not shut the door on that possibility. They haven't disapproved that, but they're more concerned about seeing the overall big plan for how the district is going to handle Unit 3 versus trying to accommodate 3 major lot owners up there. And that makes total sense to me. So I'm sure as we work through this, that possibility may still be on the table, but I'm sure they want to see the big plan first. And one of the good things that came out of this is that after that meeting, you know, we all kind of felt that we're on good footing to kind of have further discussions between the entities, La Plata County and us, and to try to work collaboratively in order to solve the whole Unit 3 dilemma. Next item has to do with our sanitary survey inspection, which our last sanitary survey inspection of our water and wastewater system occurred back in 2018. So we expected the team to come through last year, because that would have been the 3-year point. I firmly believe it was probably due to COVID, or they had other priorities outside of this area that prevented them from doing that. So we're looking forward to hosting them probably this year. And the sanitary survey systems, I mean, it's a very comprehensive look at our monitoring plans, our records, operating and maintenance records, our standard operating procedures, emergency response plans, all of those items. And since we're a public supplier of water and wastewater, all those entities that provide public sewer or water, they get hit with these sanitary survey inspections. So we're working hard to get ready for it this year. Federal home improvement grants for fire protection. So at December's board meeting, we discussed that initially. The whole goal was to help residents mitigate fire damage by replacing wood decks with Trex or Likes products, replacing shingled roofs with steel or asphalt type products, and by replacing single pane windows with double or triple panes. So as of January, or actually, let me back that up. So as of February 7th, we had 86 interested residents. And I sent all of the email addresses off to Chief Evans because the ball is kind of in their park in order to communicate what the specifics about the grant will be and what the next steps will be. So if I hear anything from Chief Evans, I will definitely get that information out to the 85 interested residents, but the information should come from Upper Pine. Snow plow replacements. So we discussed this last board meeting, and Jim is working with the vendors in order to get what the government pricing is going to be on the equipment. And just want to remind everyone, we are looking at both new and gently used vehicles to replace our snowplows. And then once we get that information, we will regroup and put the figures together so everyone can see what those figures are. Next item is the new office building. So I changed the format of the update for everyone just because it tended to get a little convoluted. So all of the items that have been completed, I've got the word complete next to those. And any items that have not been completed are highlighted in red and noted as in process. So, and if you've seen the building lately, man, it is definitely coming along.
It is a nice looking building.
Yeah, yeah. Martin Hodder he's doing an incredible job, and in addition to him being a great builder, his communication skills are really good as well. So it's been really a good kind of relationship with the district. So the items that are kind of outstanding right now that we're working on. So the driveway that they installed is 12 feet, and our contract spells out an 18-foot driveway. So we're coordinating that discrepancy. And Martin and I are going to be meeting tomorrow to discuss that among some other things. So the next item has to do with the graveling the road that goes behind our office. So our plan is that employees are going to park behind the building. So O&M is going to go ahead and do that this summer, or as soon as we get solid enough ground that we can go ahead and do that with heavy equipment back there. Interior painting. So the taping and mudding of the interior walls is also complete. So interior painting is happening this week after we chose the texture that we wanted to have in there. So the doors, the cabinets, the trim package, Martin has that. And then the next step is they're going to start installing those items as soon as the drywallers are complete. So all of the interior finishes to include the flooring, the countertops, ceramic tile for the bathroom, 2 bathrooms, carpet for the offices. They have been coordinated, chosen. Martin has ordered them. And I was really glad to see that he's anticipating, that Home Depot's anticipating that it's only going to be a 10-day turnaround before we receive those. Because typically carpets and those things during COVID and flooring have been, or wood flooring have been a long lead item. So glad to see that. And then again, my final, it's not the final note, but again, Martin and I are meeting tomorrow. To discuss a potential change order. So there's some things that we have to take out of the contract, and there's probably a couple items that we have to put in there, but it should be minimal. And First Southwest, if you recall, the construction, the loan was kind of a 2-part thing, which was a construction loan and then also the permanent loan. We coordinated with them last week with First Southwest in order for them to get the permanent loan processed through USDA at the 25-year loan at 3.49% interest rate. So I haven't heard anything back from First Southwest after we provided them with all those materials. So that should be, or all of the documents. So that should all be moving along. So the furniture that we have to put into the new office, it's been received, and Jim volunteered to go ahead and assemble all that. So as we get closer to the end of this month, they're going to assemble the furniture and put it in the building, which would be really good. So Green Apple Movers is the company that we're contracting with in order to move the items from the Mountain View office. So we have that set up for March 1st, which is the date that Martin said that the building will be done by. And then we just ordered two computers and monitors, one for the comptroller's office, and then the other one for our growth office. So once we get the comptroller in there, we'll have one additional office that we can put a permanent staff person into. But the interim, being that Jim has issues with Wi-Fi down at O&M, he can just pop across the street if he needs to get better internet access at our building. And then the final thing is all the photos. I added photos in there so you can kind of see how things are progressing. And then also an attachment to the manager's report kind of gives you an idea of what the interior finishes are going to look like as well. And that is the end of the manager's report.
I have a question before we get to Bonnie's. What about Jim's job? Don't listen, Jim. Are we replacing him? Is somebody moving up from our staff?
Yeah, yes, we are. So the goal, if we have people that can readily fill those shoes and have the right skill sets, in my mind and my experience is always to try to fill within. And we do have a person in O&M that is coming up to speed on the positional requirements for Jim's spot. and we think he's going to be an incredible asset once he moves into that position. So we'll have to backfill his position then. So yeah, unfortunately, we're moving into spring where we won't have so many snow removal commitments, but we will start getting into road maintenance, mainline extension, and all those things. So we need to get those positions backfilled fairly quickly.
Okay.
And I think Jim is still talking about the end of April as his last date. So that's that.
Okay. So did we want to field Bonnie's questions at this point then?
Yes. So Bonnie, she's asking, so the first question has to do with renting of the community center and why the board can't meet there. And I know one of the email that Bonnie sent me was that she understood it that the building is being used currently by a sewing group. And no, that is not correct. The district is not allowing anyone to use that building whatsoever. Just because we're not sure of the condition of the building. And until that is addressed, well, future use of that building is addressed, we're not going to allow anyone to use that facility. And that's one of the priorities for 2022 that my successor is going to need to start bridging probably a little closer with the board so we can figure out the plan forward on that building. So that's the first one. And the second question Bonnie has was, she knows that can have speed bumps in the roads because of damages to possible damage to snowplows. And then she's asking about dips in the road like they have in Bayfield. And Jim, from a maintenance standpoint, what do you feel about that suggestion?
The problems with the dips is every time you hit that dip with a snowplow or the grader, it just takes out more material. And pretty soon you'll have a hole besides a big dip. And if somebody's got a low car and they hit a dip and tear their say their little spoiler or something off the back, who's responsible for that? I think right now, all the speed bumps we have out there after winter, that should slow everybody down until we can grade the roads. But we didn't intentionally put those there, honest.
I do like them though, little bumpity bumps. Regarding the first question, this is Bonnie. Regarding the first question, because I had seen on Facebook that somebody had gotten permission to rent the community center for this group. Who, if anybody, is responsible for doing that? Because maybe that person does not know that the community center cannot be rented out.
No, and they might not, Bonnie. So I know when I saw your email on that, I mean, I have not personally approved anyone to use the community center. And the only other person they could have communicated with was either Jamie or Barb. And I confirmed with them as well that no one has been given approval to use that facility until a final decision is made on it. So
They're using Pine River Library right now.
Yeah, I know the library. I had heard about the library, but okay, like I said, I was just curious because I know I, for one, I'm not looking forward to driving to Bayfield to attend a board meeting. To me, Zoom is perfect year round, But so when I read that post on Facebook that the meetings were going to be at the community center, that kind of like piqued my interest. So, but thank you for responding. I appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. So the other thing, Bonnie, that I know Tony had an idea several months back about, the possibility of connecting a meeting space, constructing a meeting space adjacent to the new office building. And that's in lieu of using a building that we don't know whether it's structurally if the structural integrity is in that facility to use it. So that may be a future opportunity for the board and the residents to look at.
Yeah, I think both of those are going to have to be discussed at the same time. If we look at the community center and it's too expensive to get that thing up and running again, then we need to look at alternatives. And that alternative that Tony is throwing out there as something worth looking at in the future, I think that needs to be part of the same discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
Keith,
And
how
we
big
love
is
to,
the conference room in the new building?
Oh, what's that?
How big is the conference room in the new building?
Yeah, so it's large enough to support 8 people only. So it's definitely not large enough to have a board meeting in there, but and early on, Mandy, so we looked at that, constructing that as part of the new office building, but then that's what got shot down through the election, because it was a Tabor issue, so.
it was cost.
I wonder if we could meet as board members and then just open it up to residents on Zoom. Just a thought.
I think we can look at that down the road too. I think that all ideas should be on the table as we look going forward what we want to do.
And we kind of did that when we were at the library. Keith had set up, and I think then we bought new microphones, a camera of us meeting, so people could Zoom in, even though the board was in person when we had it at the library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had challenges with the way we tried to do it, but I think you're right. If we got the right equipment, we might be able to make that work well. So I think that's worth looking at too.
And meeting at the library it's free. So I know there's a little bit of an inconvenience, at least for folks to drive to Bayfield, but it is free to the district to use.
Yeah, and I think the inconvenience is something we definitely need to keep in mind. I mean, not too many people want to make that drive and sit through a meeting and then drive back. So if we can avoid that, I think that would be desirable.
Yep. Yep. Which is back to Mandy's point, the potential of just using,
Right.
having a room and Zooming also. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of alternatives here. We've already thrown 3 of them out for provoking our thoughts. And I think we need to continue with that. If people have ideas, then throw them out, let us know, and we'll talk about that down the road. I think we need to wait till we get the new manager in so that we can engage him. That's not something we're going to solve before you're gone, Keith.
Right. Right.
But I like Keith. I want Keith there.
We do too.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay, is that it for the extra then?
Yep, they were the only 2 questions that I saw from.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on with the office manager's report. Jamie?
All righty. Hello, everyone. So my report, I just want to make clear for people that aren't savvy to all that goes on in the office. My report goes over stuff over and beyond what Barb and I do here in the office. Starting off with Cassell, I was able to talk to our project manager this morning and schedule a kickoff call. So that'll be for February 28th. I'm glad that we're going to be moving forward. Unfortunately, she told me that it's still going to be another 3 to 6 months before the software is fully active. So a little disappointed with that, but we'll keep moving forward. Still working on the audit and creating reports and uploading them from QuickBooks and from our bank accounts from the utility billing system that we currently use, and etc. As far as the election, we've filed or the call of nomination to be posted on the Durango Herald. It's also been posted on our website along with necessary forms that are required for the election. Currently, we have 4 self-nomination forms that I have validated. And let's see. I've also updated the website and did a lot of search as far as history, because unfortunately the DOLA website hadn't been updated for many years. So we got that all cleaned up. Let's see, I talked to Tiffany Parker from the county. They are gonna offer very little assistance, but thankful enough, they're gonna offer us ballot boxes, some supplies, and names of judges. And I have set up Barb Ross as the deputy DO until her resignation, and then I will have to find someone else. As far as phone calls and payments, the office has received approximately 174 calls this month. Barb's processed over 1,300 utility payments, not including miscellaneous fees that we collect. We have filed 0 lien releases, 0 intent to file a lien. 5 liens have been filed with the county this month. Barb's processed 4 property sales and collected from 3 of the intent to file lien letters that have been sent out. We have sent out 71 friendly reminders, 34 shut-off notices, and 3 actually got shut off, and we processed work orders for them, but I do believe they're paid up at this point and turned back on. And 97 friendly reminder letters on accounts that are falling behind. And that's it for me.
Jamie, were you here last election of board members?
I was
Um,
the DL on the last election as well.
Okay. Do you remember there were questions about the judges? Can you just fill us in that the judges are certified or licensed or whatever and have no stake in the game? Can you just talk a little bit about that to just reassure people?
Absolutely. So the judges that we used last year were judges that Tiffany Parker had suggested that she had used for many years. And I'm assuming if they're available, I would like to use them again. I was impressed at their knowledge. They were older and had been doing it for a long time. So they did a very thorough job.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the report there, Jamie. If that's it, I believe it's time to move on to the L&M report. Jim?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
We're still continuing to push back some snow piles. They actually went up and tried to open up the rec center a little bit more, get some of the snow out. They're taking hard pack off wherever we can. We've had some people call about cul-de-sacs and send them out to scrape get as much of the hard pack off before it turns to ice. But some of it turns to ice because the water runs down the driveways, freezes under the snow, and then once we get it off, you know, it's actually slicker. So we got to put some chips on top of it, which will keep them from slipping around. We've been working on some equipment. We're cleaning up the shop, and we're getting ready for this month's inventory. We're still trying to fill the open position down here, like Keith said, but it's gotten a lot harder now because as of Monday, you can't hire somebody unless they already have a CDL, but they have to go to a 2-week school to get a CDL now, which they said is expensive and it takes time. Even we've got one guy that wanted to move up from a B to an A. Before, you used to be able to just go into the DMV and take the test, like 12 or 14 questions. Now if he moves from a B to an A, he's got to go for a 2-week course. So they've made it a lot harder for us to find anybody that's going to want to, have a CDL. So I don't know where we can go from there. Some of these guys that we've been getting applications from said, oh yeah, I can go get it because I had one. It doesn't matter anymore. If you've had a CDL, you start from scratch. You got to take a 2-week class, and a lot of guys aren't going to want to spend that kind of money.
How much is it, Jim?
I don't know, but they said it's quite pricey. That was on the state site, because I looked it up after they told me about it. And even the state people said that it's, I think it was on the news, because Colorado is now falling behind everybody else, that you have to have the state certifications. And because they've had so many truck crashes, I think the last one was the truck driver there was 4 people killed, that now they're mandated that you have to take a 2-week course. So it's going to be tough.
So Jim, can I ask another question with regard to that? Are you telling me that we can't offer some kind of a temporary position where they don't operate the equipment and employ them so they can start learning our system while they go to school and possibly help pay for the training, and then we move them into the position that requires the CDL?
That's what I was going to approach Keith about, to find out whether we used to do that we had 2 guys that didn't have their CDL air brakes. So they had to go and take a driving test and all that stuff. And we took care of it. They were already pre-hired. It's going to take something like that, Mark, I believe, to just to get people in, and then you put a stipulation in there. If you leave before 2 years, you have to pay Forest Lakes back that money that they spent to teach you, basically.
I like that idea. If we can help them meet the requirements and it costs us money, then yeah, there should be some kind of a hook for a certain period of time. So, I mean, yeah, by all means, please, you and Keith have that dialogue. And I think we need to do what makes sense.
Yeah, because
between $3,000 and $10,000.
Yeah, it's expensive, and the people we're getting that are asking about this, either they're coming from another state, they're younger people. I prefer, listen to the old guy here. Preferably, you want somebody that's going to be here for a long time. So you don't mind investing in them, as long as that if they understand that, hey, if you leave, you have to repay this cost back to the district.
You could put that in an employment contract, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, you could.
And like I say, it's gotten a lot harder. They're already having trouble with the getting enough truck drivers. Now anybody coming out of high school or been in a different jobs, oil fields or whatever, and have to have a CDL. First of all, you're in Colorado, where pot is legal, and if you get a CDL license, it better not be in your system ever. So that's one of the problems, trying to get somebody with CDL license. If they're not an old timer that's been on the road and likes being on the road, to get young people to sign up for that type of a thing, it's tough. And nowadays it just got tougher with having to go to school, because where are they going to get anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 for their just to maybe go to work for you? It's just not going to happen. Okay, and everyone is trying to stay busy down here, and we were waiting for snow, but we did get some last week, so we were happy. All of our vehicles are up and running, and we have had no injuries or incidents last month at all.
Okay, so Jim, your first item there, the staff pickup trucks, I know that one was damaged when Tim was hit. I'm assuming the one that's not operational is that one. What's the status of insurance and all that and getting that thing replaced?
That would be, we've already been received that money. I think that would be Keith. But
yeah, Jim, so we haven't received it yet. We're supposed to get, I think, if I remember right, it was about, the value was about 11 or 12 grand that they were going to give us for that. And then the net, after they took out all the fees and so forth, was going to be about $9,000. So we sent them the title, they being AAA insurance company. We sent them the title, and they sent us a letter letting us know that there were a couple other signatures that they needed on the title. And I actually, right before our meeting, received an email from their representative. So I'm suspecting that they sent us a form in order for us to provide the additional signatures. But so yeah, as soon as I get that back to them, we should have the funding for that truck.
Okay. And since we're talking about that, how is Tim doing? I know yesterday he was supposed to have a meeting with another appointment with a doctor. Has he been released for work yet?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
yeah, he'll be back Monday.
Yep.
Great.
On light duty. So he'll have another follow-up meeting on March 7th in order to make sure that he doesn't screw himself up on light duty.
Okay.
But we've got some things for him to do, especially in light of the sanitary sewer survey that's coming up, where he can work on SOPs, standard operating procedures, and those types of things for us once he gets back.
Great.
Also, Mark, just to go back to the truck, I don't feel that we need to get another pickup truck, because what we did was one of the trucks we were working on is we changed our tap truck over, and now we're going to be using our crane truck. We put all the equipment, our air compressors, everything on our old crane truck because it had less miles and it never got used. And we'll just use the old tap truck as a vehicle to get around. So
Okay.
I would rather put the money into snowplow trucks than even think about getting another pickup.
Oh, that sounds logical. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unless you guys decide to give us Keith's truck.
I think somebody else is going to have their fingers on that one.
Yeah, you can fight that with them, Jim.
Yeah. You can't hurt a guy for asking. And by the way, I do want to thank Barb and Jamie, the way they've gotten everything around on, for the key fobs and everything. They just did a fantastic job, and you're definitely going to miss Barb.
Great, thanks. Okay, is that it then, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, Keith, I get you're up for the financial.
Yep, and if I could real quick, Alan Monk also asked a question on Unit 3, asking who's going to pay for the water and then the road improvements. Well, there's a couple different avenues I think that we can take with that. One is, like I mentioned before, to try to seek 100% of the funding through that infrastructure bill. Or we can try to seek a grant through the state, or we can create a small improvement district up, just like we do for mainline extensions and the rest of the district, where we shed the cost for installing that infrastructure to the different lots. Or we can do that to get a portion of the money from the lots and then use that as a match to a grant. So there's several different avenues that we can take there, but we also need to keep in mind that we've got a CIP in units 1, 2, 4, and 5 as well that the district is going to need to look at, and I think that was like $27 million also over the course of the 30 years. So it comes down to money and priorities, and just figuring out the best way to do it.
Yep. So we're just in the initial throes of trying to figure out how we can proceed with that. We definitely don't have the answers at this point.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is Ellen Monk part of Unit 3, or is he asking as a resident of other units?
Yeah, Alan Monk lives in one of the other units, and I know he recreates, and he and several of the other residents go through Unit 3 to get off into the Forest Service and those types of things. So, but he is a resident of Forest Lakes.
Oh, I assume that, but I just wondered if you wondered, is it going to affect him, or is it going to affect Forest Lakes budget? And how does that affect him as a resident? That's all I'm asking.
Oh, okay, got you. That I can't tell you personally. I don't know if he owns any lots there at all. I'm not totally sure.
I do not.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Alan.
I'm asking as to whether or not the people in the other units are going to be responsible in any way for the cost of those improvements to Unit 3.
Okay, which is a good question.
Yeah, very good question.
I know we talked about other meetings about charging them road maintenance fees when our maintenance things went up. So we're cognizant of that, Alan.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So off to financials, Mark?
Yes.
All right, so on property taxes, to date, we have received 2.4% of the levied property tax allocation for the district. And the total we can expect in this year is $703,894. So that monthly, we start seeing that revenue coming into the district. And that will be reflected here in the financials. Water pumping, we had a interesting jump in January. We had 3.7 million gallons of water between the 4 wells, whereas in December we had 3 million gallons of water. So what we pumped in January of 2022 is pretty similar to what was pumped at the same time in 2019. So not concerned about it, just kind of an interesting anomaly with water usage in the district. As far as the budget to income expense report, this is common to see this time of year, where the expenses the expenses right now are slightly exceeding the revenues. So I suspect, or don't suspect, that will change as the months go on and as we get further into the calendar year, where we start seeing funding revenues coming in from utility billing and then also the property taxes.
Okay.
So one of the things I'll make sure I do is whoever my replacement is, we'll have a good overlap on putting the board packets and all that kind of stuff together. So anyway.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that it then, Keith?
That is it on the financials.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any unfinished business that anybody's aware of?
I wanted to talk about, Derek had brought it up at the end of last meeting, and I'm wondering if the other directors here have thought about it, having evening meetings, and what we think about that. It might affect who applies for the next positions is the only reason I bring it up now, even though Tony and Derek are not here. And I just wanted to hear about Mark or Mandy, how you feel about that.
Yeah, let me address that very quickly. I was going to bring that up for new business. Derek called me yesterday or the day before to specifically tell me he was going to try to make it, but asked me if I would back him up if he can't make it. And when we were talking, he said, you know, it is just too hard for me to do this during the day. I'm really being challenged by it. And I know he is. He's in a job where he's not in control of his time and he can't count on having the time. And I still personally believe that it's easier for the residents to tune in too if we have it at night. So I asked him if he would go ahead and bring it up as new business. He's not here. I'll do that on his behalf. I was on the fence when we voted a year or so ago to try it during the day. Since then, I've realized not only is it inconvenient for me, it's hard for Mandy for sure. I don't know about you, Carissa, but Derek, it's very hard for. And my personal feeling is I would like to see them move back to evenings. So I guess, Keith, I have a question for you before we hear from Mandy. But can we introduce a motion in the same meeting that we bring it up and vote on it? Or do we have to wait till next month to vote on something like that?
No, I'm pretty sure you can go ahead and vote on that. Yeah, during this meeting. But since the two of the board members aren't there, yeah, I would be hesitant about doing that until all board members are present, or at least have had an opportunity to provide input. Okay,
the one person that has not provided, well, we'll give Mandy the opportunity in a moment. Derek has already given me his input. The only one we've not heard from is Tony. And I know Tony's concerns all along have been he has other commitments that make it tough for him to do it in the evenings. Since he has stated that he is not going to run for re-election, then that reduces that concern to some degree. However, I think if you guys are good with it, then maybe we should plan on voting at the next meeting. And I'll talk to Tony and let him know what we're looking at. And I'll let him know that we're going to be voting on that. Would be.
I was part of an association on a lake we lived in before we moved here, and we got proxies from people. Is that an option here? If you know you're not going to be at a board meeting, can you give your vote as a proxy to somebody?
That is.
And so, okay, so let's say Tony gave me his proxy. You know he's going to say no. So depending on what Mandy says, I'm the swing vote because I'm guessing she's going to do evenings. But yeah, okay. So I think we can vote, and we just assume he'd vote no, and would it still pass?
I don't think you can assume that he would vote no, though.
Okay. But he would be the only no vote, is what I'm guessing.
Well, that's my guess too, but again, we don't know that. That's an assumption. So Mandy, let's hear it from you.
Honestly, when I joined the board, it was evening meetings. So moving to day was awful for me. This is hard. I have to rearrange my whole day to try and make it work. But more importantly, I think we get way fewer turnout of residents because they all work. So I would just prefer to do it in the evening so that we can have more input from our residents.
Can I kick in here for 1 minute? You might
Sure.
get more people that want to be on the board if it was in the evenings.
Yeah.
And yes, you can vote on it because you have a quorum. And also, do you need to okay Derek's absence?
Yeah, we already did that.
We did not vote on Derek's.
Okay,
We voted on Tony's. I think we were hoping that he was going to show up.
right, 'cause I didn't hear Derek's.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I wasn't specific about that. So we will do that before we close out. Then we'll make sure that we approve Derek's absence also. Okay, so given that we can vote, do we want to vote? I think even if we waited, Carissa, I think there's going to be the votes that it's going to carry. We've heard your opinion. I know that myself and Mandy and Derek all are in support of it. So even if Tony is back and even if Tony expresses his disagreement with it, I think if we vote, I think it will still pass. So I don't think you need to worry about a proxy. We aren't making the decision today. Well, let me just ask you guys, do you want to do that without giving Tony the courtesy of weighing in? That's my concern about voting today.
If I knew he was going to run again, I'd say let's wait. But he has adamantly said he is not running again. So I think it's three more meetings, February, March, April
Yeah.
is 2 more meetings.
And I believe
Whatever you guys decide is okay. I'm just,
it would be a formality too. It'd just be a formality because I think we all know what the outcome will be. So,
I agree. I think even if Tony were voting or not, it's not going to matter because it sounds like the majority of us want the evening meeting, right?
yes.
Derek
And so,
just texted me, yes, please vote yes.
oh, okay.
okay.
So,
And so, Keith, from your standpoint, I know that means overtime for you
yeah,
and
Jim,
somebody, the admin staff
Jamie.
and Jim.
Jamie too.
Do you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, I do. Yeah, so, I mean, this, in my tenure, has come up every so often. And I think we need to look at this from 2 perspectives. One perspective is being the board having the availability and possibly more opportunity to attend the meetings. And I get that. I see where it might be better for the board members to attend evening meetings. So when we looked at doing this, the other side of this is for the residents. So when we looked at doing this back in 2020, that was a huge goal of mine, was to try to increase resident attendance at the board meetings. And those numbers didn't pan out. So we looked at from May to December of 2020, and we averaged about 16 people outside of FLMD staff and outside of board members on average that attended those meetings from May to December. Now, I also looked at the attendance on the whole year for 2021. So, and these were, of course, they were during the day, but they were Zoom meetings, and we only had on average 7 people that attended the Zoom meeting. So, I mean, it's one thing to say that we're trying to change these to nighttime for the board, but if we're trying to use the reasoning for the residents to improve that attendance, the numbers don't pan out. In light of, we had a rate study that the residents were invited to attend. We had a capital improvements plan. We had a budget public hearing meeting. We had a rate increase meeting, and attendance from the residents did not attend even with those critical items. So my thought is that we're gonna make it more available and more opportunities for the board, which on one hand I guess is good, but we're not gonna achieve what my big thing was, which is we've got all these residents out there that should have say and what is happening. We're not going to, the numbers don't show that we're going to touch that.
Well, Keith, I do think that the attendance has dwindled with the day meetings. It's less than we were seeing. But I think the other thing is, I mean, it's a complex equation. I think we've had a very functional board. I think the board has been working well. I think we've been advancing a lot of agenda items. And we don't know either whether or not the reason there's been less attendance is because people feel like maybe the Metro is in better hands. Maybe they're comfortable with where we've been going, and so they haven't seen the need to attend. I still think that the opportunities for people to attend, if they feel like they need to, are better, since the majority of the people that live in Forest Lakes work. And it's very hard if they want to, and we do it in the evenings. I still think we increase the likelihood that people that want to can attend.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear from Jamie, honestly. She'd have to stay nights.
Yeah, Jamie, do you have some thoughts?
Thank you for asking my opinion. I appreciate it. I don't see where attendance has changed at all. As far as nights, I guess I'll get overtime.
Mhm.
Well, and I have a question
Or
about
I
that.
can,
Why
or I
can't
can
we-
just, I can also be at home if we're still doing via Zoom.
Mhm.
What, couldn't we let like the staff close early on board member weeks on Friday? Like maybe they get to leave at 1 on Fridays of board member or board meeting weeks, so then we don't have overtime?
Yes, so that is always an option that we can do. In light of all the work that we do have to do, I mean, we could devote 40 hours a week to the other stuff. And I mean, the overtime would definitely come into play, but yes, that is an option to offset the overtime costs. Just let folks go home earlier in the day.
We used to take comp time.
Yeah.
Like if I worked, say at the meeting for 2 hours, I would take 3 hours comp time because it'd be like time and a half. So it really doesn't cost, you know, Forest Lakes anything in as far as pay wise.
So you would count it part of your 40-hour work week?
No, it would be considered comp time. If the board meeting lasted 2 hours,
Yes.
I would still get paid an hour or at time and a half, but I wouldn't take the pay, I would take the hours. So at a later time, I could take, I got to go someplace or I want to go do something, I could take that 3 hours later.
It hangs in your bank.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
That would work too.
Okay, so given the dialogue that we've had, Mandy and Carissa, do you feel like we should vote on this time? Or do you think we should wait until the next meeting?
I'm okay with voting today.
I am too.
Okay. I know Tony may not be happy with the fact that I've moved forward like this, but I personally feel like it's a foregone conclusion. I personally feel like it's better. And so I would like to propose that we change to evening meetings. I guess we would start that in March. And I'll make that motion. Does anybody want to second it?
Well, Mark, hold on one sec though, because we have a resolution is going to have to go forward to change that. Yeah, so
Okay.
and of course, the resolution isn't done today.
Right.
So
Okay.
my thought is that the resolution goes to the next meeting.
Okay.
And then you probably start at the April meeting.
Okay. So we could vote on it today, but then the resolution would have to be completed next time, and then probably April for the first night meeting. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So I propose that we vote on returning to evening meetings and address the resolution at the next meeting.
The resolution has to include that it's year-round evening meetings.
Yes.
Yes, it would.
Okay. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mandy?
I vote yes.
Okay. So it's unanimous amongst the 3 attendees that we are going to return to evening meetings. We will prepare a resolution for the next meeting with the anticipation of returning to evening meetings in April. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, disbursements as the treasurer.
Hold on, Mark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got under new business, so Mandy is going to be the interim board member to serve on the personnel committee, right?
Correct. As a backup, assuming Tony is not available.
Okay. And then the second item under new business is the March 2022 board meeting. So typically in the past, the board and the district have chosen to cancel that meeting so the district could focus on the audit and then also on the audit. And then there's one other item. It's slipped my mind right now, but anyway, they would cancel that meeting. So my question is, do we want to cancel this meeting? And I say that on one hand. The second part of that is I would recommend that we do not, because we're going to have to approve the new district manager, and that'll have to occur at the March board meeting. And then if we don't have enough, if for some reason people start pulling their self-nomination forms to become new board members, a resolution would have to go forward to the board at that meeting in order to cancel the meeting.
I saw your, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I saw your previous recommendation. I concur. I think there are so many irons in the fire right now. It would concern me if we don't meet for a month. So I personally feel, I agree with Keith. I think we should hold the March meeting. And I guess that was my assumption. And I apologize for not having discussed that explicitly, but how do the two of you feel, Carissa and Mandy?
Yeah, I think this year a March meeting is a must.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think we should hold it, yeah.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement with you, Keith. I think we need to have the March meeting.
Okay, that sounds great, Mark. And one final thing. So on the resolution that we're doing for the evening meetings,
Yes.
what time? I'll need to put the time in the resolution.
Good question. Do you recall what time we were doing the meetings before? Wasn't it 7:30?
Yep, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Does that sound reasonable? That gives people time to get home from work and have dinner?
I think so.
Put kids
Okay.
to sleep, is that enough? If it goes 2 hours on average, 7 to 9? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
I remember we had some meetings that ran past 9, and I'm still okay with that as opposed to taking a chunk out of the middle of my day. I always have to stop doing something and come in and refocus and do this. Evenings just work so much better, and even if it runs a little late.
I like 6:30, but
6:30?
yeah.
And the reason we went to 7 is because Tony had a conflict. So, because I think we were trying to shoot for 6:30ish, right around in there. So, yeah.
Well, if we're not going to
I
start the
kind of
new
prefer
meeting,
7.
Sure, okay,
Sorry, go
that's
ahead.
fine.
you would prefer 7? Is that what you said, Mandy?
I'm just thinking like if you figure most people get done working at 5, they don't get home till 5:30, then they make dinner, then they eat, like 6:30 is too tight. And what I really want to encourage is residents tuning in. So that's kind of where I was like, give everybody time to get dinner done and then join.
And I hate to say it, but if we start at 7, that's more incentive to get done more quickly and efficiently. So,
Okay.
Keith, why don't you write it up for 7 o'clock?
Okay, got it.
Thank you for bringing all that up.
You bet.
Does anybody else have anything with regards to that issue.
Just real quick, with Jim, does that work for you? Evenings?
Sure.
Okay. Great. All right. I assume that is it at this point, and we have no resolutions that I'm aware of. Do we, Keith?
That is correct. We have none.
Okay, okay. If that is the case, I will move to disbursements as treasurer. I make a motion that we approve the expenses for the period of 6 January to 31 January 2022 in the amount of $157,000, excuse me, $157,162.45. Second,
Second.
okay. Andy?
I
Okay,
approve.
so the expenditures have been approved. I guess it's time for adjournment unless anybody else has any last items.
I move that
Okay.
we adjourn.
Pardon?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, and I'll second. Mandy? Okay. The meeting is adjourned. It's 3:11 by my clock. Okay. You all have a good day.
Thank you. You all.
Yep.
Okay, it's okay, Bonnie. Yes, that would be okay. Starting April, she wanted to post on Facebook that they'll be in the evenings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Everyone have a
Bye.
nice night.
Bye now.